So at this time, I'm very, very excited to introduce our keynote speaker, Sarah Jones. So Sarah hails from Arizona, where it's really, really, really hot, but it's a dry hot. It's a dry heat, so she's very happy. But I met Sarah several years ago when she joined our virtual support group meetings, and she has such an amazing passion for helping other people learn, feel supported. She's just an amazing person. She comes from the Parkinson's Movement Alliance. She formed the group to help people with Parkinson's move more. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. She begged me not to. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah now. Thank you.
Wow. It is amazing to be here with all of you. I feel so honored to be able to talk with you today. This is the first time I've been to a lot of patient programs, and they've all been, I've been like Joyce, I've been running them, not in them, as a patient. So this is a very different experience, and it's really an honor to be with you. So, to get started, what I really want to do is see who we have in the room. So what I'm going to ask you to do is raise your hand when I say how many years it's been since diagnosis, just so I can get a sense of what we have. For those of you who are care partners, loved ones, siblings, people who care about someone with vasculitis, you can go from the date that the person that you care about was diagnosed because you have this disease too. Like it or not, it's an equal opportunity disease. We all have it. We're all living with it, whether it's in your body or not. If you're a doctor in the room, I would say go with the day you started treating people with vasculitis because you've been dealing with it since that day. So, less than 1 year. Handful of people. Okay. Welcome. I can say that because I'm really long-term, like diagnosed 2 years. But anyway, so 1 to 5 years. 5 to 10. 10 to 15. 15 to 20. More than 20. Lots. Wow. Woo. Wow, there is a vast array of experiences right here in this room, people at different parts of their journey as you learn to live with vasculitis and navigate a whole new life with vasculitis. So I know we can learn a lot together now that we're in the same room, which is amazing. Some of us are together and some of us are together again. I was diagnosed with EGPA on February 4th, 2021, a day I will never forget. How many COVID babies are here? So people that were diagnosed or got sick during COVID? Yeah, okay, that was rough. It was rough to try to get any medical care for anything other than COVID during that time period. And I had a doctor actually say to me, "You picked a terrible time to get sick." And I couldn't agree more. Figuring out how to live with a disease that upends absolutely everything about our lives, our relationships, our work, just everything about who we are is really hard. And it is a process. I've perused a lot of books since I've gotten sick, trying to figure out how to navigate this. And I thought I'd share a few with you. Life in the Transitions is really about life quakes, how to be sick. Amazing book, even though it might sound like a strange title, it's amazing. And The Deep Places. All of them are really good for different reasons. Most recently, I've been reading Falling Upward and listening to The Velveteen Rabbit. And that's what I want to talk with you about today. I'm really humbled by the courage and strength and caring in this community. I have felt it from the day I started, from the Vasculitis Foundation and all the support that wraps around you with the VF, and then all of the people in the support group. And many of you I'm getting to meet this weekend. I, like you, am in process. I'm trying to figure this out. I am not going to pretend that I have it all together because I definitely don't. But I want to share a little bit about my journey and hope that maybe it can inspire and ignite in you a passion to just dive deeply in yourself and figure out who you are with vasculitis, not something separate from you. And we can do that in this room together this whole weekend. So, I'm backing up. Hang on. There we go. In the book Falling Upward, they talk about the 2 parts of life. The book is a little religious for my taste, but it has some really good principles in it. In the first half of life, he talks about how really our focus is acquiring things, taking things in, success, identity, our image, and it's all about building. That's the first half of life. The second half of life, we examine what we brought in the first half and figure out what we need and what we want to take with us into the second half of life. It's really a deeper process of learning about ourselves. He talks about how it doesn't matter what the age is. He talks about a 10-year-old with cancer that he met who's in their second half of life, and an 80-year-old who's in their first half of life. So it is not about chronological age, it is about life experience. And I believe the process and the diagnosis of vasculitis pushes us into the second half of life. It pushes us into a different kind of process and a lot of grief. And that's a lot to make sense of. It's hard. It can feel enormous for those of you who are newly diagnosed, and I might be 2.5 years in, but sometimes I feel like I'm a month in. It can be confusing as we try to figure all of this out and figure out what is really going to stick as we learn how to get stabilized on our medications. In my first half of life, I was running nonprofits. I was doing equality work with my amazing wife, Pam. We were doing house projects, literally renovating homes from like top to bottom, like 12 hours a day. We were traveling a lot, and I was traveling for work a lot. We were kayaking through Hawaii, and we were playing really hard and having just a whole lot of fun. And it never occurred to me that that was going to shift. And then it did. We came back from our bucket list trip to Molokai, and literally the day we got back, I came back, and 2 days later I was sick. And I was told in that first year while I was waiting to get diagnosed that I had GERD and that I needed stomach surgery, which, by the way, I don't have GERD. I was told that my vasculitis hives and the rash was nerves. I just needed to settle down. I was told that my blood pressure that all of a sudden was erratic was just me being stressed at being at the ER. And I see some heads nodding because you know you have been there as you've tried to be diagnosed. It is not an easy process, to get somebody to actually listen to you. So when I was diagnosed a year in, I felt initially a lot of relief. I felt so glad to have an answer. Okay, I know what it is. I can take care of this and figure this out. And then it hit me. My life would never be the same again because this wasn't a transitional short-term disease. Everything that I had made sense of in that first half of life changed. I felt like I had lost everything. And honestly, for what I did have, I wasn't sure I even wanted it because it didn't make any sense to me anymore, and it was so sudden. And I think if we're all honest about our process of getting diagnosed and coming to terms with this diagnosis, we all go through a piece of that, of, do I really want this life? And I don't feel that way anymore. I know now that I can find joy, but it takes time to get there. But we can call that period of time where we're figuring this out and where there's that enormous grief, we can call that a life quake. This disease thrusts us into a dark night of the soul, and we all experience it differently. For me, it meant about 2 years of, I call it crying with Ryan, my most amazing therapist, Ryan. And I say crying with Ryan because that's all I did for 2 years, and it was priceless. If you don't have a therapist, I cannot recommend it enough. Somebody to just listen to the grief and process it with you and just be there with you. And then we have to figure out how to come to terms with learning how to live with this in our bodies and advocating for ourselves. For many of us in our first half of life, we're busy. We do not have time to stop and actually go, how am I actually feeling inside right now? We're just moving. And then all of a sudden, we're in a place where we have to actually check in and figure out what's going on in us. And we're doing that with a disease that frankly gaslights us. You know, we have labs, they look perfectly normal, but we do not feel well. We have a pulmonary function test that looks great, but we cannot breathe. We have kidney issues, or our kidneys look fine, and our heart might look fine, but our blood pressure is all over the place. So we are living with a disease that has a master's in gaslighting us and trying to confuse everything, and we're trying to advocate for ourselves and with our doctors. It's a process. It's hard. It's maddening, but it is an important process that we all go through so that we can actually come to terms with how we're feeling and share that with a doctor. And I know there's some great presentations. I see Jen. There's some great presentations this weekend about talking with your doctor and shared decision-making. And I think, that is, I heard that talk. I don't know if it's the same one, but I heard that talk early on in my diagnosis, and it really helped me understand how to communicate better with my doctor when my labs said one thing and my reality said a completely different thing. For the physicians in the room, I want to tell you about a pain experiment. In the preface of the original edition of When Bad Things Happen to Good People, Rabbi Kushner talks about a pain research study. And in that study, people are asked to sit with their feet in a bucket of ice water. This is how pain is measured. So how long can they withstand the discomfort and the pain of their feet in a bucket of ice water? Then a person goes into the room with them. They just sit there. They have no interaction. They are just present with the person in pain, seeing them and hearing them. The study showed that the participants who had someone in the room with them were able to last twice as long with their feet in the bucket of ice water than the people who were alone. Doctors, we have a rare disease, and I know you know that. There aren't easy solutions. There aren't simple answers. You have to have your own level of discouragement sometimes, that you can't just make things better. But I want you to know that you, sitting in the room with us, seeing us, hearing us, even if you can't fix it, the data shows you're cutting our pain in half. You are doing something, and that's powerful. You're helping us through the life quake, and we thank you for that. Navigating these life quakes is not easy. No one can be in our bodies. No one can know what this disease really feels like inside of us. For the loved ones in the room, no one can know what you're experiencing as you see this person who you've known maybe for decades all of a sudden be a very different person, sick, sleeping, on steroids. And we all know what that does for all of us. It is not easy. What I can tell you is that we all have our unique version, but we all have a lot of similarities. And in this room, there is someone, maybe lots of people, who are experiencing the exact same thing you are. So we are so fortunate to be in this feast of being with each other this weekend, and I hope that you can welcome the good, the exciting, the fun, the painful, all of that. I'm working on my second half of life right now, and you'll see there's some question marks because I'm in process, but I'm not in a hurry to figure it out. I need to take time with this. I know that my second half of life is much simpler and involves a lot of naps. It's about relationships, it's about love, It's about being present in my life, something that I could never have been, frankly, in my first half of life because I was running nonstop. But I am able to be present now. I am meant to be on this earth to love my wife wholly. I am meant to be on this earth to love cats and volunteer at the shelter, which is a wonderful thing to do. I'm meant to have close relationships with my family in ways that I don't think I would have had the opportunity to because I would have been traveling. I'm meant to have friendships that are genuine and honest and real. And I'm not in a big hurry to create my second half because this unpredictable disease can throw something at me that I find myself grieving again, and I just have to kind of set myself down. But I know it will come, and I do know that there is joy ahead, and I know that there is fulfillment ahead. It's just different than what I had. I would like to close by playing a small section of the Velveteen Rabbit for you. This is read by Meryl Streep and music from George Winston. Every single one of us in this room are in the process of becoming real, becoming whole and loving who we are, disease and all.
What is real? Asks the rabbit one day. Does it mean having things that buzz inside you and a stick-out handle? Real isn't how you are made, said the skin horse. It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real. Does it hurt? Sometimes, for he was always truthful. When you are real, you don't mind being hurt. Does it happen all at once, like being wound up, or bit by bit? It doesn't happen all at once. You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't often happen to people who break easily, or who have sharp edges, or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand.
I am not afraid of becoming real or exploring the second half of my life. Sometimes I'm afraid of all that it brings forth, but I know in the end it will be rich. We are in a room of people who understand, a room of people thrust into their second half of life, trying to make sense of it, become real, and honor the shabbiness that sometimes we feel inside. Let's take this time together to be with each other, to sit with each other, whether you're sitting next to somebody with their feet in ice in a bucket of ice, or whether you're talking to somebody who's celebrating a victory. Let's be present with each other and enjoy our time together. Thank you so much to the Vasculitis Foundation for everything you do for us, and thank you for letting me share today.
Does anyone have any questions for Sarah? We have a little bit of time. She's my new favorite speaker. She went under time. Oh my gosh, she set the bar really high. Does anybody want to ask something? Yes. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Where are the Kleenex? Anyone else? Okay, great. Oh, sorry. Come on up.
So the first book is Life in the Transitions, and that's the book about life quakes. By the way, I really haven't read any of these from cover to cover because that's just not my style. But if you can do that, you can pick and choose with these, they're good. Life in the Transitions, How to Be Sick, phenomenal book, written by a person who got sick one day out of the blue, had to quit her job. She's an author, so she's quite amazing, but it's how she learned to navigate that and come to peace with herself. And the other one is In the Dark Places, memoir of illness, if I can remember it, In the Dark Places. It's a New York Times bestselling author, and he talks about his Lyme disease and trying to get diagnosed with Lyme disease, but it's a phenomenal read. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not the therapist.
Yes, so what if you're one of the people who's sitting here wondering, I haven't entered into that second half, and what am I missing, is I think what you said. And I think, from my experience, I think it depends also on your illness. You know, if you have a form of vasculitis and you didn't get so sick that you needed to stop working, and that really was a big transition for me. I definitely did not plan to retire. I was going to work till I was 80, so this is like way early. So I think that did a lot of that for me. And I think if you can still participate, you're probably still in a lot of that first half of life, taking in. I'm making this up, by the way, from what I've read. I don't know this to be true. I think Dana's here. She's the actual therapist in the room. So, but I do know that at some point when there's the losses, even if you're not in that, I guess I have to believe that this disease, there's so many different losses, and even if it's just, I can't believe I can't get through a day without a nap. I might even feel better from my medication, but I have to nap. And so even if it's that, there's so many different losses, and I think our main point is just to be present with ourselves. At least that's for me. I don't know if that was helpful. Yeah. And be gentle with ourselves, right? Oh, that is not an easy one. But you're right. Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me share with you. Thank you.